Thank you so much. Thank you, love.
How you doing, Dr. Dyson? My name is Clifton Coates. I had a question. KRS-One wrote a book called The Gospel of Hip Hop, and in that book, he makes the argument that hip hop culture, as properly defined, I think you know what properly defined means, is the true embodiment, living embodiment of Dr. King's dream, because of inside of hip hop, the content of one's character is judged based upon the skill base on the hip hop elements. I just wanted you to speak upon that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I mean, you know, standing by the speaker, suddenly I had a fever. Was it me or either summer madness? Because I just can't stand around, so I get closer, and the closer I get, the better it sounds. My mind starts to activate, rhymes collaborate, because when I heard the beat, I just had to make something from the top of my head. So I fell into the groove of the wax, and I said, how can I move the crowd? First of all, ain't no mistakes allowed. Rakim, you know what I'm saying? That's beautiful, beautiful. Look. I mean, Pac, somebody wake me, I'm dreaming. I started as a seed, the semen, swimming upstream, planted in the womb while screaming. On the top was my pop, my mama hollering stop from a single drop. This is what they got? Not to disrespect my people, but my papa was a loser. Only plan he had for mama was the blanker and abuser. And even as a seed, I could see his plan for me, stranded on welfare. Another broken family. When I hear Sean Carter, now all my teachers couldn't reach me, and my mama couldn't beat me hard enough to match the pain of my pop not seeing me. So, with that disdain in my membrane, got on my pimp game, blanked the world, my defense came. Biggie said, back in the days, our parents used to take care of us. Look at them now, they're even scared of us, calling the state for help because they can't maintain. Darn, things done changed. If I wasn't in the rap game, I'd probably have a key knee deep in the crack game, because the streets is a short stop. Either you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. Darn, it's hard being young from the slums, eating 5-cent gums, not knowing where your meal's coming from. What happened to the summertime cookout? Every time I turn around, our brothers being took out. And on, and on. I mean, Nas, it's only right that I was born to use mics, and the stuff that I write, it's even tougher than dice. I'm taking rapping to a new plateau through rap slow. My rhyming is a vitamin, hell without a capsule. A smooth criminal on beat breaks. Never put me in your box if your stuff eats tapes. It is a religious experience in this sense. That KRS-One's expression, content of character, skill level, skill set, Kendrick Lamar, don't kill my vibe, right? J. Cole, sometimes I rap like Hove. When you think about Lauryn Hill, even after all my logic and my theory, I add a cuss word so you ignorant people hear me? Whew. I mean, you know, Talib Kweli, these cats drink champagne, toast death and pain, like slaves on a ship, bragging about who got the flyest chain. So, yes, your point, I think, is so powerful in terms of KRS-One's argument about the lyrical dexterity, which proves that it is oblivious to its owner. It's about the content, not your color, you know, because if Eminem can spit, Eminem can spit, right? Iggy Azalea can't spit, Iggy Azalea can't spit. What you got, what, and Nicki Minaj murdering all day long on that. Even whatever you think about it, the flow is ridiculous, right? And on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine now, being asked about why don't young black people speak out about Ferguson and stuff, she said, you see what happened to Kanye? They shut you down. Even the president calls you a name. But if you could be like that, tell a little bit of that truth, then you might forgive the Kardashian inclination. But that's that man's business. I don't want to, you know, break the internet with paper. So what I'm saying to you is that I think it's absolutely profound that there are moments within hip-hop that express and articulate some of the same sensibilities of freedom, of desire, of protest. When Jay-Z says, hey, back when police were Al-Qaeda to black men. Police was Al-Qaeda to black men. That's terror, right? Tupac said, just the other day, I got lynched by some crooked cops, and to this day, them same cops on the beat getting major pay. But when I get my check, they taking tax out, so we paying the cops to knock the blacks out. So, there is serious depth and profundity there, and it's also a bunch of crap and craziness. Same thing with gospel music. Right? I mean, every gospel song ain't great. I mean, just because you can sing don't mean you saying nothing. And the stuff you be saying sometimes be wiggity, wiggity, whack. So I think that religious formation, extension of Dr. King's dream at its best, also undercutting some of that, also challenging some of that, also outside of the parameters of that. It's a complicated culture that expresses a range of competing ideas, and I think it's fertile at its best, and at its best, it is uplifting and challenging, and at its worst, of course, it's degrading and problematic. But I think that folk like KRS-One or Rakim, who I quoted, or Nas, or Jay, or Lauryn Hill, or Queen Latifah, or Bahamadia, you know, and so on, Sister Soul, you know, just tremendous, tremendous artists that we should listen to. Modern day prophets. I mean, what is Psalms but gangster rap? Kill my kids, throw down they mamas, hurt all of them, and by the way, bless me too. So you be mad at people getting up, first thing gangster rap, I want to thank the Lord. They ain't nothing but psalmists, bitter literature of the ancient realm, right? I'm just saying, when you look at heroic mythology, Kanye West is a genius. I mean, when Kanye West, let me give you an example, not only in terms of what Carrie West was talking about, but in terms of the temple of hip hop. But look at when Kanye, and I shouldn't be telling this, but next week, but I'll go and break this off for you right now. I don't usually do this, but break off that remix. I don't, okay. Sorry. So, and I was actually there that night at MTV. I'll tell the story again next week, but I'll tell it again now. So I was as a guest of MTV. Beyonce getting her, you know, thing. And then Kanye goes up on stage with Taylor, and I love Taylor Swift. Shake it off, shake it off, shake it. Haters gonna hate, players gonna play, shake it off. Love Taylor, I ain't hating. Love her. I know she and Katy Perry beefing right now, but okay. So, Kanye goes up and snatches the microphone. Excuse me, can I have it? Oh, yeah. I thought it was part of it. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's right. Oh, he drunk. That ain't part of the show. Y'all don't remember the Manhattans, do you? Y'all remember the Manhattans? That's not part of, remember he singing that song? He said, when I start crying, baby, that's not part of the show. You think you got a Mac game? Go listen to some of these old cats. You young boy, how do you even have a girlfriend calling them out their names like you do? Sure, spit some game at them. You know, talk to them with decency and respect. You know? I mean, I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl. Girls found another and gone away. With her went my future. My life is filled with gloom. So day after day, what would the rap song be now? Done left me. Done left me. Done left me. All right. But, so Kanye takes the microphone, and what does he do? He says the award was for best video. No disrespect to Taylor, but single ladies, all my single ladies, all my single ladies, all my single, if you really, really love it, put a ring on it. Come on, man. Huh? The Pope was singing that song. If you really want me to be pontiff, put a ring on me. Y'all sleeping, y'all don't even know. My point, Kanye. He was rude, he was ridiculous, it was offensive, and so necessary and brilliant, and so courageous. Why? I bet you Chuck Berry was at home going, where was he when I needed him? When they were giving my award to Elvis Presley. Huh? I bet you Little Richard was at home going, when they gave my award to Pat Boone. Tutti fruity. Huh? I bet she was saying, give me my Grammy, shut up. Woo! So, the courage of hip hop, the power of hip hop, the range of hip hop, and at its best, the brilliance of hip hop. I would agree with KRS-One for sure. Thank you, my friend. Oh, over here, okay. Over here, oh, I'm sorry, let's see the side, over here.
Aaron Jones, Dr. Dyson. You highlighted that in the 60s, many black people in the church didn't believe that the church should be a part of the civil rights movement. Moving forward to today, what are some critical issues that we either are absent about, naive about, some things that we need to address today, and should they be addressed to the structure, or should there also be some addressing to accountability, shining a light within?
Yes, sir. Great, great question, as all of them have been. You know, it's a both and, not an either or, right? That's a great point. The issues: incarceration, over-incarceration of black people, huge. HIV/AIDS, huge. Black unemployment, just huge. Retraining of black people for jobs that matter in a wage economy that is quickly being absorbed by the service economy. The shift from manufacturing to service industries has all but depleted working class people who had no education from working, depleted those jobs. So now a college education is basically like a high school diploma. And if you ain't in the service economy, and even there, the tech industry now, thanks to Reverend Jesse Jackson, is being talked about for its explicitly racist practices that need to be challenged. 7% of tech industry? As much technology as Negroes be using? I mean, back in the day, drug dealers invented the beeper. Wasn't no doctor. I mean, I know doctors had them, but that was like, hit me on the sky, So those issues, and gay and lesbian, transgender, bisexual identity. I know that ain't no big clap. I know. But we're gonna look kind of crazy 30 years from now. Black people so homophobic. Like, what you mad at? Tell them why you're mad, son. Tell them why you're mad. Look, I got to marry a gay couple. I think maybe it's later this year. I've done it before. Because what is it about us that says, well, we talk all this, not the content of your character, not the color of your skin, but the content of your character. What about the gender? What about your sexual orientation? What about you're a human being? Now, black people use the Bible in the same way that it was used against us when white folk wanted to keep us in place. So that's going to be one issue. I'm saying that as an independent, petty bourgeois Negro intellectual at Georgetown. That's just my opinion. Most black preachers disagree with me, and I love them. And they're my friends, and I love them. But I just think we got to challenge ourselves on this. Because 30 years now, we're going to look back and say, why were we so homo? Our kids who are gay don't even, look, your kids come talk to me. In the church, because their parents have excluded them. And it's painful. It's your mama and daddy, right? They ain't killing nobody. They ain't shot nobody. You boo-booing them. You be in jail with them. Going to visit them. 30 years in prison. Your son gay? Write him off, right? Even in Empire. Y'all saw Empire first show. Tried to throw him in the garbage can, didn't he? What's up with Terrence Howard? Glad Taraji was there. Anyway. So those issues are important. Now, yes, we should shine a light on structures. We should shine a light on injustice. And we should also shine a light on ourselves. Now, the people who want only to shine a light on the self, conservatives, think it's all about your behavior. I ran into, it's a true story, after I had my contretemps, I think it's a good French word, my contretemps with Mr. Cosby, saw him in a restaurant one night, 10, 11 years ago. Spike Lee invited me to the Inside Man premiere. I was checking it out. I was feeling good. It's a great film. leave there, walk down, big picture glass window. Sitting there is the owner of Essence Magazine. I said, "That's my man, what's up? How you doing?" I'm doing, you know, windows, air kiss, what's up, deuces. Next to him, his wife, then is Mrs. Cosby. And I ain't never met her, but I figured by that time she knew who I was. That's how I go. Head of the NAACP at the time, Bruce Gordon down there, I'm calling their names. Down on the other side of the table. And I'm saying to myself, well, dang, if Miss Cosby here, Bill Cosby, as soon as I thought that, I see him sitting right in front of me. I mean, through a glass. And they must have told him Mike Eric Dyson was there. He turned to the side. And he did, yeah, Mr. Jello, Fat Albert, don't want kids to be nasty and cussing. You giving me the bird. Let me tell you how Jesus works. I was like, but I'm from the hood, west side of Detroit. Thank you. Next morning, I'm on a train to Philadelphia, where I was teaching at the University of Pennsylvania. And so the purser, when I get on, she said, "Ooh, Dr. Dyson, all you famous black people, you getting on and Mr. Cosby is on the train. And I want to introduce you to him." Now, she clearly ain't read my book. But that's all right. I said, let me eat my breakfast first. Gotta have my Wheaties. Then he saw me coming, and I slow motioned it. And he reached his hand out, shook it. "Sir, sit down." He says, "Doctor, I want to apologize to you." He said, "Last night, you know, it was my wife's 62nd birthday. I went, oh, snap." That ain't what he said, but you know what I'm saying. And I said, "Sir, I get it. People often have that response to me." Then we got into brass tacks and knuckles. And he says, "You, sir, should stop lying." See, I appreciate people. Just tell me the truth. Don't be sugarcoating nothing, because I'm giving it right back to you, right? President or comedian, I'm doing that. It's what I do. Not nastily, with grace, elegance, style, panache, je ne sais quoi, some more Latin and French words, but still real. So he says, he says, "Didn't somebody help you out when you said you had them Coca-Cola bottles at 14? Obviously studied my biography, and you were in a gang." He used a basketball analogy. "Didn't somebody put a body on you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Didn't somebody direct you?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Mr. Cosby, I'm not against self-help. I'm not against people having character. But you act as if having that will solve the crisis of exporting jobs overseas and black folk can't get a job." I said, Martin Luther King Jr. was dressed right. Rosa Parks dressed right. They were still victims of white supremacy, sir. Now, we go back and forth. I had a radio show then. I said, "Could you come on my show?" He says, "Not until you get enlightened." Right? I mean, this kind of dude he was. So for me, those kind of people who think that the only way is a kind of narrow conservative estimation of looking at self, I think self is critical. I think self-examination is what black people have been doing. If it wasn't for self-help, we wouldn't have hardly had it, no help, because we've been helping ourselves forever. The question is, what does the government owe us? Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I ain't going nowhere. I ain't leaving this country. You gonna give me everything you owe me, and I'm being right here because I done paid the price for it." So it's a both and. It's moral self-examination. Nobody who comes to this church or any other church in America will say they don't hear ministers saying, "Don't tell me about the white man. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what, Moses, what's in your hand, and work with it." But at the same time, and see, this is the problem I got with your man in public housing over here. 1600. It is public housing, I'm just saying. Now, if you want to live in public housing, that's the place to be. If you want to be a black man, public housing, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Put that on your application. Section 8, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You got a room over there? Because look, obviously they let people who try to hurt my man over the fence. That dude be getting in there eating Wheaties and looking at Oprah, right? The thing is, why you just gonna focus on one side and not both sides? See, he'll quote Chris Rock. You know, when Chris Rock says, black people always want to be congratulated for stuff they should be doing. Like, I take care of my kids. He said, Negro, you should be taking care of your kids. You want us to give you a cake for that? But he also said white folk use black people's back as the cab. He also, the other day, in the New York New York Magazine, brilliant interview. I'll talk about it next week, where he goes, he says, black progress. He said, act like what we were doing was wrong in the first place. He said, white folk got less crazy. Ooh, I'm going to read that. Oh. Spit that part too. Don't just spit the part dogging Negroes. Spit the part that holds everybody accountable. And the tragedy is, even when we look at self-help and self-examination, often we neglect to speak about both and, the structure that allows people to help themselves. Some people can't have self-help. You know, rising tide lifts all boats. I ain't got a boat. I got a dinghy. I got a little ship over here. I got a little craft. Then we need to help everybody provide for themselves, get the requisite education, and then, of course, you hold people accountable. It's both and to me, not either or. I've been over-answering. I know we got 5 minutes, so I'm going to go real fast here to get everybody else in. Yes, sir, then yes, ma'am, then yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is...
Oh, and over here. I got somebody over here? Yeah. Oh, in the back. Oh, I'm sorry, balcony. Okay, I'm going to go real fast. Can we go overtime? We'll punt it. Well, let's go overtime. I'm Tom Brady, calling audible at the line. Overtime. All right. Okay, Russell Wilson, I'm sorry. All right, go.
Hello, my name is Joshua, and I just wanted you to speak about the relationship between the Bible as a system to legitimize racism, like some scriptures in the New Testament as well as the Old Testament have been taken out of context to, like provide a justification for slavery and white supremacy, sir. If you could speak on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Great question as well. Yeah, I just don't read them. No, I'm just being serious. But look, you got to read them, right? We got one of the greatest Hebrew Bible scholars sitting up in here. Your Dr. Judy. Look. Oh, yeah, that's right. Give her some love. Phyllis Tribble talked about those texts of terror. People, there's a lot of problematic stuff. That's why I called the Psalms the gangster rap of the Old Testament. But you got to respect the genre. Don't be reading fiction as history. Don't read poetry as narrative about Jesus' self-revelation. Respect the genre. If it's fiction, don't read John le Carré as if he were, a professor of Russian history of the 1960s. John le Carré writes all them, them mysteries and stuff like that, and those thrillers. Now, he could say some real important stuff. Fiction often has the best truth now, let's be real. Read Beloved, that's just straight great stuff. But, and it's based on a real story out of Cincinnati, but it's not a historical record. Just like Selma it ain't a book, it's a movie. It's my artistic imagination. Same thing with the scriptures. Some of that stuff is poetry. It's like 1,000 years from now, they'll be reading Jay-Z and Nas the same way, right? Look what they're doing already to jazz music. You're going to Lincoln Center to listen to jazz? Do you know where jazz started? Like in the brothel in New Orleans? And now you're sitting with your necktie and you're listening to it. And you're listening to John Coltrane. In 100 years from now, falling back on that with the heckified gangster lean, getting funky on the mic like an old batch of collard greens. It's the capital O-S, oh yes, I'm fresh in double O-P, D-O-double-G-Y-D-O-double-G-U-C. Snoopus Magnus, I don't know. So, thing is, Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter, Birmingham Jail classic. 100 years from now, it might be read like scripture, serious insight. My point is this. Read the scripture with knowledge. And folk who be the most technical and literal know the least about it. I'm a biblical literalist. God said it, I believe it, that settles it. Stop lying. First of all, you don't even know what God said. Because you ain't even reading original languages. We ain't Dr. Judy. Well, we don't know. I mean, we just be taking people's word for it. Okay. She be reading the originals and stuff. We just be going on copyrights and Xeroxes and folk who be second, third hand. The Bible itself was written, what, 80 years after Jesus? A copy of 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 a copy about 80 times over. You can't remember what happened last week. You be like, Shakanda called me, and she want me to take your car. Well, she ain't told me. Then you find out Shaquanda didn't say take the car. She said borrow the car and bring it back the next day. So we get it all twisted. We do the same thing with oral traditions. You saw Dr. Judy said we're an oral people. Oral traditions, the stuff was passed down. It has certain conventions that allow mnemonic devices to remember stuff when you're in an oral tradition. So when you read the Bible, read it with discernment. Read it with understanding. And you say you literal, no you ain't. If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out. I'm just saying, and please don't do that. Don't go home and prove me wrong. I plucked it out, see? No, don't do that. If thy left hand offend thee, cut it off. You ain't literal. The stuff you be reading, you think you're reading about homosexuality is about strangers. The stuff you think you're reading about women's stuff could be women's stuff. The stuff you're reading about children, spare the rod, spoil the child. Thank you. We're at the movies. I'm the feature. I like that. I like that. First of all, that ain't even in the Bible. Number one, spare the rod, spoil the child ain't in the Bible. It's from a 1500-some poem called Hudibras, Hudibras, by Samuel Butler, meant to scorn the Puritans. So there's enough stuff in Proverbs, though, that's pretty tough in terms of what you do. But the same word for rod in the Bible is the word used for sheep. You didn't say, sheep, I'm going to whip your butt if you don't get your over there. You guide them. You lead them. You disciple, discipuli, to disciple, to teach, to make a disciple of. Why is it that we're addicted? You get to Adrian Peterson stuff and half the Negroes defending him. Leaves in that boy's mouth, whipping him like he's a slave. How sick do you have to be? And you're going to justify that? My mama did it. I turned out all right. The jury is still out. You ain't dead. We don't know. So here we now are trying to justify physical punishment. And then you wonder why white folk run stuff. Because they can't. Come here, Johnny. Come here. Come here. Okay, okay. Because Johnny feels his way. He thinks he owns the world. He go to class, he got a little chip. He come to Georgetown, you owe me this. Black folk in the back chilling out. Because we done been beat and so disciplined that we beat the initiative out of our kids too. So, before you read the Bible, understand that you don't know a bunch about it. And if you were to read some stuff you found, like if they're reading Snoop Dogg 1,000 years from now, it's important to talk about what LBC was, Long Beach. It's important to distinguish Long Beach from Compton, and Compton from parts of LA, and the Compton of Kevin Costner is not the Compton of Kendrick Lamar. And using metaphor and simile and analogy and anagogic imagination and talking about the generic forms through which the truth is articulated and the imagination. And do you believe in God inspiring the word in terms of I was really on fire and I was flowing in the spirit, or God being a dictator to you of every word? So you have to think about that. And black people of all people need to chill on the biblical literal tip, because for 150, 200 years you couldn't even read nothing. What you literal about? What you being literal about? Somebody told you? Because you couldn't read it for yourself. Frederick Douglass could, and a few other Negroes could. The rest of them were illiterate in terms of the mechanics of literacy as determined, but they were brilliant and genius. Homer could neither read nor write. Ain't nobody gonna call him illiterate, right? So we know that there are multiple forms of literacy. My point is, be humble. Recognize that the biggest thing is God. The biggest reality is God. The biggest love, the biggest passion is not about trying to figure out if we can beat somebody down with a book. Because I'm going to tell you something. If it comes to me siding with somebody, remember what Jesus said? Better to say you ain't going to go and go than say you're going to go and don't go. I'd rather be with somebody who calls himself an atheist, but they love people, and they love humanity, and they want to transform the world. I'm down with you. As opposed to a Christian, be like, I love the Lord, I love Jesus, and just be hating on everything and everybody. I just miss me with that. Just miss me. So I think we have to be very careful. You should read those. You should put them in the context. You should understand Haushaltsverfahren, right? The house codes, I'm pronouncing it wrong, of Ephesians, when they're talking about what? The larger society, its philosophical underpinnings inform the construction of the narrative that is the Bible. So now, we don't even know if Paul wrote it. A bunch of other people wrote this stuff. We put Paul's name on it, but he ain't really the author. He sound like some other people. Then in the Old Testament, the JEDP thesis, that's all I know. Don't ask me nothing else. On the Old Testament tip, I knew J was old. Jay-Z is bad. I mean, he's even in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, y'all missed that. That's all right. Sorry, a little bit too advanced, or I'm just a little bit too ignorant. So the thing is, why you got two creation stories? Well, where'd that come from? And how Moses gonna write his epitaph and he writing the book? Just use your common sense. When you do that, I'm not saying dismiss it, I'm saying put it in context. What's the purpose? If the purpose is salvation, ultimately about saving us from our ignorance and our viciousness, beautiful. But don't use it as a wedge between us and other human beings to assert our superiority or our salvation or we are better than. I think that's a deep and profound problem. So I think read it is important, if that helps. Read it, put it in context, understand its meaning, and then understand that people were trying to justify slavery like they're trying to justify gender oppression as well. And we have to be critical of that with our deeper philosophy and theology. All right? All right, I got to hurry. Okay. Well, in the balcony, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dyson. Bernard Morton. I guess my question goes to this issue about we need to have a national conversation about race that's currently going on. And from my vantage point, black people have been having this conversation since we landed on these shores.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, in my view, if we're going to have a legitimate conversation about race, for me, it starts with 300 years of uncompensated labor plus 100 years of Jim Crow. I'd just like to get your perspective on how this conversation on race should be.
Yeah, if I could get that right now, that would be good in a check. I need that money right now. IRS on me, dog, hard. First of all, Negroes shouldn't even have to pay IRS. That's what Wesley said, didn't he? Oh, he's in jail. But he got out. Lauryn Hill said that. Whoops, oh my God. Okay, better not try that route. Look, ideally, we read Ta-Nehisi Coates' piece in the Atlantic, great piece on compensation. There are reparations. There's other kind of reparations besides dough, even though I like the dough. Let me tell you what. I love the dough. Love the dough. If we could get the dough, that would be great. Educational compensation would be great too. Sending your kids to the best schools and having them have access to that would be some compensation too. There are all kind of ways in which that could occur. I'm down with John Conyers. House bill talked about reparations. Let's at least have the conversation. We know what happens in Germany with our Jewish brothers and sisters and in parts of Europe where they have been paying money back to people who they dog. It sounds like it's good for everybody except Negroes. And we just can't get no love and no satisfaction and certainly no kind of compensation. So I think the conversation is critical. But look, beyond that though, you raised a very important point, and I'm gonna let everybody else ask their questions. The conversation on race is not just about black people talking. It's also about people talking to each other and being honest about it. And often we don't even get the honest. In my classes, all my classes are mixed. I got a lot of white folk, got a lot of Latino folk, a lot of Asian folk. And I just have to call on the white folk. Because I know they probably feel intimidated too. See, welcome to our world. Usually all the classes be most them, and then a few of us. And in my classes be a little balance. And so then you get intimidated. Then you understand. You don't even know what it means to be a minority for real. Right? No, you just, that's 2 hours, 3 hours out of a week. You don't really know. But, and I honor all my students. I don't want my white students to feel intimidated. I want my black students, Latinos, I want them all. But I have to call upon them to say, just to bring it out, what do you think? What do you believe? What is your culture telling you? You'd be surprised some of the stuff my folk be saying. And it's important for us to have that honest, open conversation. And again, I don't want to get ahead of next week. This is part of the problem of having a president who's constipated. Now, we know why. We know the man is under assault and attack. But why you keep giving us lectures then? Why you keep going to Morehouse telling us not to have no excuses when you got plenty of them? Either none of us ain't got no excuses, and black folk, are you talking about, look, talking about gay don't mean nothing talking about Obama. You can get away with talking about gay. You can't get away talking about Obama. Because Obama, oh, that's my G. Oh, no, oh, no, Lord, not him. Well, we're going to take a little look next week. We ain't going to be nasty, but we're going to be precise. And we're going to be engaged, and we're going to defend, and we're also going to criticize, right? We got to be honest about it. So for me, part of the problem is that we don't have a guy, happens to be a guy, who can talk about it. Now, let's be real. Bill Clinton can be more open about race than Barack Obama can. And he can be blacker in public than Obama can. Okay? So now that you agree with me, can you also agree with me we also need to criticize? No. Look at you. No. You're pushing now. Okay, we're going to talk later. I'm going to convince you. I'm going to do a few stories and be funny and then talk a little bit more. But my point is simply this. In order to have a conversation, you got to be willing to talk. Let me give an example of somebody who got power too, named Eric Holder. Eric Holder got big power too. He ain't the president, but he's attorney general. And they be going at him, and he be coming back. This is what happens, Mr. Obama, when they talk about you. Talk back. You the president. You the man. You ain't got to run no more. You ain't got but 2 years left. Holla at me, dog. Huh? Holla at me. Come out the White House like this. What? This is my crib for 2 more years. I'm about to paint it black. I'm about to get rims on the Secret Service. Conversation is critical. It's important. Dialogue is important. And until white folk tell the truth about it, race talk is black talk. But real race talk is talking about white privilege, as well as black forms of privilege that we don't interrogate class-wise. That's important as well. So I think we have to have both of those. We're going to do a little bit of that next week. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Terry.
Hey, Terry.
My question is, what do you say to someone, let's call her Terry, who feels that in light of the fact that we know that the Academy is comprised primarily of old white men who have consistently gotten it wrong with respect to African Americans vis-a-vis film, how do you, I feel like to even be concerned or aggrieved about the fact that they fail to recognize the brilliance of Selma means that to a certain extent that we don't like to talk about at dinner parties, we still seek the validation of old white men who don't value our experience, don't value our contributions to film, and consistently get it wrong about us.
Mm-hmm. So what was your question, though?
My question is, what do you say to someone like me who feels like to even be concerned about the fact that the old white men in the Academy who consistently get it wrong did not.
Oh, you mean the Academy of the Oscars?
The Academy, yes, with respect to Selma. No, with respect to Selma.
The Academy, I was thinking.
I guess my basic question is what does it mean that we care, and doesn't it mean that we still seek validation from old white men who consistently get it wrong about us?
Well, tell us why. Give me an answer to that.
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
I'm wondering whether or not, to a certain extent, that means that a large part of us that we don't want to talk about.
Don't ask the question. Tell me not what you believe.
I do think that.
And then why do you think we're seeking that validation?
Because we care about them not recognizing Selma and other films where they should.
And what should
other
we be doing?
Performances.
What should we be doing?
We should be celebrating ourselves and paying more attention to getting more powerful black films being created and recognizing them and saying, you know what? We don't care that you don't recognize us, because we sing our own songs about ourselves.
Okay.
And that's what I think.
All right. Now let's take that. Hold on. That sounds good. My name is LeBron James. My name is Kobe Bryant.
Don't know him.
I play for the NBA. I don't care if white folk recognize me. Give me the championship. I played hard. If they don't recognize me, still, it doesn't make a difference. I play for myself and my people. Now, I know that ain't no exact analogy, but I'm going to push it a little bit. It's not about the white man validating me, right? Because you can, look, I know Ava DuVernay well. Mm-hmm. She ain't worried about white validation. She wouldn't have made the movie she made.
But we do.
Right? Well, of course we do. Yeah. And it's easy for us to say, look, I don't care. Look, I'm a well-paid, well-heeled professor. I can talk a lot of trash that a lot of people can't. I got freedom, yep. Right? Because I got tenure. Unless I do something crazy, and that is possible, because it's me. Unless I do something crazy, I'm good. Yeah. I got tenure. I can talk trash. I go on and meet the press. Rudy Giuliani call him a white supremacist. I mean, I just be going. I be throwing. All right? Everybody ain't got that freedom. Most people don't have that freedom. Most black folk working ain't got that freedom. So it's easy for me to say, forget what the white man say. Yeah, just as long as he pay you. Because Negroes ain't going to pay you, telling you that the white man ain't nothing. Oh, I know you don't want to hear me this morning. I know you don't want to hear this. Negroes who egg you on, forget the white man, then get you fired. I ain't got no money. I can't help you. Nigga, I don't know who you are. So be careful about what the white man do, because, see, I know Audre Lorde said you can't use the master's tool to dismantle the master's house. I can disagree with that. Use the master's tool to unmask, dismantle, get inside the white man's house. I don't teach at Howard, would love to. I teach at Georgetown. Am I looking for the white man's validation? I don't know, but the white man paying me a lot of money to talk a lot of stuff about the white man. All right? Now, and every chance I get, I oblige. But I talk about Negroes too, right? And so when they ask me, why ain't you at Howard? I love Howard. Ain't nobody ever invited me to teach at Howard. But I'm over here doing my thing. I'm a secret agent. Ixnay on the agency. So don't be, so I'm saying this. It's easy to say we don't want white validation. No, we don't want white validation, but I want equally what's mine. I want what's owed me, and the academy is about recognizing the best art. So for me, that means that ain't the white man validation, because a black woman runs it right now. Well. I'm just saying. Now, she don't really run it, but she run it. She's in the face of it. Obama's the face of America. Do he really run it? He's the face of empire. International exploits in the name of America is now has a black face. So I'm telling you, it's a little bit more complicated than seeking for the white man's validation. Although you're absolutely right, though, because I came up in the 70s in Detroit, where it was about self-assertion. Ungara, Rafiki Wakuumba. And so I believe in black people and what we do. I also believe I'm not going to give people slack, because they would love for Negroes to go, we don't need your validation. We got our own BET awards. I ain't mad. I love the BET awards. But come on. Oscar, because I earned it. Oscar, because then when I earn it, here's the real, how you know you really ain't addicted to white stuff. When you get up in the white stuff, and then you say, I'm good. Leave it alone. First, let me do what I'm supposed to do and get where I'm, look, in the academy I'm in, the Academy of Academics, right? I'm what is known as a university professor. Now, you say, well, ain't all y'all university professors, fool? No. It's a title that belongs to 10 people at Georgetown, 9 of whom are white. Guess who the Negro is? And so we go to dinners once a year. University professor. Now, university professor means you can teach anything. You're supposed to be it's above distinguished professor. You're supposed to be like famous, well-regarded, your work is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Whether that's true or not, y'all can decide. So the thing is, but I'm the only raisin up in that oatmeal. Now I could go, I don't need the white man's validation. Yeah, I want the white man's money. Yes, sir. Yes, I do. Yes, I want that white university professor. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing that. Because it's not that I seek the white man's validation. I want the white man's spot to validate my people where I am. So I don't see it as, although there is a quest for validation at every level, that we have to consciously examine in our own psyches and souls. But every participation in a dominant white culture ain't no white validation. And if white folk paying the money at a certain level, of course you want some white validation. Every 2 weeks you want that validation in your check. Let me tell you what. Know the story I told you about John Johnson? Right? Essence sold to Time Warner. BET to Viacom. Because Negroes say they want stuff. What did Beginning of the Roots, what's that album? When they're talking about Negroes say they want it, but Negroes don't, And then Mo Better Blues, they're playing it off of Mo Better Blues. When Denzel is talking to Wesley, Negroes say they want great art, but they ain't gonna pay for it. They're not gonna sacrifice for it. They're not gonna suffer for it, whether you agree with that or not. So I'm saying be real careful about valorizing and idealizing black support within black networks, when the real truth is, when you're really validating yourself, you don't care what room you're in, you're going to express your ideas, get your paper, and represent your principles. So I would say at the end of the day, we have to be careful about it. Seeking white validation can kill you, but the lack of access to what white folk have can do the same thing, if you have earned it, and we have. All right? So I would say it both ways. Yes, ma'am. One to the left? Okay, yes, ma'am. To the left, she's been so patient.
My name is Jillian Turner. I'm wondering, some people often criticize the feminist movement for not including men in this conversation, and you've already talked a little bit about this, but I'm wondering where the room is for interracial coalition and collaboration in light of Ferguson and other issues in New York cops and things like that, where we're seeing it's not just a black and white thing anymore. So I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit on that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, look, you started with the feminists, right? So, not including men. Get over it. I mean, the men, look, this is like saying when some white folk go, when we gonna have white history? Like every month. That's what white history is, right? Like we got 1 month and you tripping. I didn't mean literally, when I said true. I didn't mean to have that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay, yes, sir. All right. You good? Is he good? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, sir, okay. So, when men go, well, why don't you include us? The feminist movement, you can be a feminist. You can be a man who's a feminist. You can be a man who practices principles of feminism. Feminism simply says that women's lives should matter, that women should be able to express every desire a man does in terms of his desire to be educated or to participate at a job. Women should not make 70 cents on the dollar what a man makes. Women should be able to maximize their potential to earn. And being a feminist, when you marry to a feminist, it don't mean that something so magical occurs. It means you don't get the last word automatically, dude. My way or the highway. Well, it's my way or the byway. So it's not, you don't have the ultimate word. Feminism is something we think is bad. It's like when people say I'm an anti-racist. No, well, what does that mean? We're scared of these words because we think that they somehow challenge us. They do. But I think if we're concerned about justice for women and for equity and parity for women, then we're feminists already. And the failure to call ourselves that is the way in which that word has been stigmatized in the culture. The same culture stigmatizes being black, too black. That's Ava DuVernay's problem, is the film is too black. It doesn't borrow from or seek the validation of the dominant culture. So I think it's important. Now to your second point about it's not just black and white, it's extremely important for non-African American allies to speak up with African American people. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we didn't say only Black Lives Matter, right? We're talking about the lives that have not counted. We ain't got to say white lives matter. We know they do. That's redundant. We ain't dogging nobody else. We ain't saying, if you white, your life don't matter. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that in this culture, look, they did a study, I think it was last year, that said young black kids are not seen as innocent. You understand? Tamir Rice, you know what the most disturbing thing besides him getting killed, the young kid, 12-year-old boy in Cleveland? It's the person who called it in. There's a male here. It's a kid, fool. Why don't you tell them it's a kid with a toy gun or a kid with a gun? You're mistaking us for being grown men. The man in the White House, you try to make a boy. Our boys, you try to make men. So the study says young black people are seen as older than before they lose their innocence. And number two, they're dehumanized. So we're not real human beings. White folk must step up and have. I've been on some of those protest lines, and there have been a lot of white folk out there. And that's good, because white folks should be involved. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I ain't Russian, but if something happened against Russian people, I'm there with them. I'm not Catholic, something happened to Catholics, I'm with them. So I ain't gay, but if something happened to gay people, I'm with them. I'm saying we should be empathetic to all people who suffer and who are vulnerable. And white people have to speak up. Don't just leave us on the sideline like, you know, come to us personally, oh, it's so bad, it's horrible. Then show up with us. Speak up with us. Speak to your own communities. And it's important to have interracial dialogue, because then we get sensitized to other peoples, whether it's Hmong or Vietnamese or Chinese, or whether we're talking about Islamic folk and Muslim brothers and sisters and the like. All of us should be sensitive to and empathetic of people whose backs are against the wall, who are victims in this culture. So it's extremely important. I think Ferguson has proved that when we stand together as allies, when I see Lisa Bloom on MSNBC as a white female commentator talking about how racist this is, and let's be real, it makes a difference when a white person says it. Now, this ain't about white validation, this is about white reality. You gonna hear your own people more than you hear me. Oh, that's Michael Eric Dyson again. My God, that's what he said. He fighting religion, blah, blah, blah. Lisa Bloom, come on, white woman, you know, good looking, terrible, highly intelligent, doing her thing. This is racist. This is unconscionable. That makes a difference. We need allies at every step to protect our babies, which is extremely important. So I think that intergenerational piece is important as well. And the different genders. My brother's keeper and my sister's keeper too. We need both of those at the same time, because black women are suffering too. Balcony. Okay, balcony's last one. Did he? Okay, all right.
Hi, greetings, Dr. Dyson. Eric Jones. My question is, with respect to race and religion, do you believe the modern day church has continued to carry the torch that Dr. King and all the other iconic individuals of the civil rights movement has lit? In addition, what steps do the church need to take in order to continue or reignite the standard that was set?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Man, these are some smart people at Alfred Street, man. Jeez. Look, it's always easy to be nostalgic. You know, Mary J. Blige ain't Aretha Franklin. Okay. But she's Mary J. Blige, and she's doing pretty good for what she's doing. And Aretha's Aretha, and then people say, well, you don't compare this generation. Well, most people weren't Aretha, that's why you don't remember their names. You remember Aretha because she stood the test of time. So a lot of people beat up on Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. I'm not with that, not for a minute. You know why? Because I know too much. I know how they dogged King when he was alive. Now that he's dead, he's all great. Negroes was even like, hey, who is this slow-talking Negro Southern preacher, man? Get out the way. Let the young people come on, man. What you doing? Then he get killed, and it's all great. Oh, he's our man. Martin Luther King Jr. was at the low point of his popularity when he died. For the first time, he did not make Gallup Poll's Most Admired Americans list, right? Because he was out against the war in Vietnam. Very few American universities wanted to hear a lecture from him, and none wanted to publish his books. Publishers. So I'm telling you, nostalgia creates romance and rose-colored glasses. People say, well, Al Sharpton. Look, what black leader has a daily program to shape perception, whatever you think about him, on a daily basis, and be down in Ferguson doing his thing, and, I mean, that's progress. Jesse Jackson, one of the greatest ever. In my mind, Martin Luther King Jr., greatest ever. Maybe Frederick Douglass, maybe Sojourner Jesse. That's my list. What he did for 40 years to carry us forward, I know a lot of black people mad what he's talking about, you know, Obama cutting them, you know, all that, I get it. But what he did after King's death, how he carried us, white backlash, black self-determination, running for the president twice, stuff with Nike and sports stuff with automobile industry. There wouldn't be a lot of black owners because without him, a lot of black people wouldn't own Burger Kings and McDonald's. The man's genius is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And guess what? Nobody wants to do this, trust me. King was 12, 13 years and gone, right? That's kind of Biggie, Tupac-like. Jesse's got to be Jay-Z, 15, Nas, 20 years, Common. You know, when you have a short-lived career, people can be romantic about you. When you have a long career, you got some hits and misses, stuff messed up. New information era. Can you imagine King in the new information era about that drama at the crib? I ain't got to say no more. You know what I'm talking about. Come on now. Come on now. They be clowning him. Today, Dr. King was discovered coming out of a, I mean, come on. I mean, John F. Kennedy, what was he going to do? You're in the closet at the Oval Office. Forget Bill Clinton. So LBJ reaching across Lady Bird on the front seat to another woman in her face. So ain't nobody gonna really be able to survive in this era, but those men and women, Maxine Waters, Susan Taylor, Barbara Lee, and then the grassroots organizations, Malcolm X grassroots organizations. I think that at its best, black leadership has adapted to its times. These are different times. Martin Luther King Jr. couldn't be Martin Luther King Jr. today. You know what I'm saying? It's a different time, right? Bill Russell could be Bill Russell when Bill Russell was at his height. Whether Bill Russell could be Bill Russell now is a different question, right? So for me, I think we have to take note of that. And then the second part of your question, what can we do to reignite? The young lady, I think it was Tiara, I can't remember, I think it's her name, but I'm not sure. Tiana Tiara was asking me about the criminal part about, black church. What's her name? Tia, I'm sorry, Tia. So I think what the black church needs to do is to believe that our souls depend upon us loving human beings in hurtful situations beyond the doors of the church. If your religion can't inspire you to help the hurting, to relieve the suffering, to visit those who are in prison, that's what King said. Remember, they played it at his own funeral. He said, don't even have a long funeral. So they played him saying, don't have a long funeral at his long funeral, talking about what he was saying. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. Tell them not to mention where I went to school, but because he's saying it, they, of course, mention where he went to school. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. They didn't have to, you just said it. Tell them not to, right? I might be right. It's the automortography. I mean, genius. This man is one of the greatest geniuses ever. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. On that day, I want somebody to say I loved and served humanity, that I tried to be right on the war question, that I was a drum major for peace and justice. That's what I want you to do. So if we are going to be the same, and that, to me, that man, with all the faults and flaws, the greatest ever. Greatest ever. Jesus King to me. That's just my story. That's just what I roll with. That's just what I know, right? So for me, what we can do to reclaim the great point you made is to satisfy the need of where we are now and speak to young people. Don't beat up on young people like, what's the plan? When you ain't gonna help them with the plan, if they got one. When I was hosting the Ed Show and I had on Tef Poe and Phil Agnew from the Dream Defenders, love those brothers. Challenging the president, president told them, be quiet, be gradual. They came out and said, we ain't doing it. I love that. That's real. Love Obama, but love them for challenging Obama, because that's their job. That's their description. That's what they're supposed to do. And the black church, Martin Luther King Jr. said, should not be a thermometer recording the temperature of society. You ought to be a thermostat changing it. And You can't do that if all you doing is sitting up in church, praising the Lord, and don't praise Jesus in your activity. Don't praise Jesus in the world where somebody needs you. Praise Jesus with your attitude. Praise Jesus with your charity, but not just charity, your love of justice. Martin Luther King Jr. said charity is a poor substitute for justice. So when we do that as a black church, when we deal with the HIV/AIDS, when we deal with the economic inequality, when we deal with the poor health care, when we deal with the chronic unemployment, when we deal with voting rights that need to be protected, then we live up to the grand legacy of the Kings and the Fannie Lou Hamers and the Ella Bakers and the Jacksons and the Sharptons too. Thank you all so very much.